Welcome back and a very happy new year to everybody who's watching. Thank you again for the support. And we're back. We had a few days off. The holidays were a lot of fun. Hopefully yours were as well. Everyone stayed safe. And if you didn't, well, hopefully you recover very, very quickly. But thank you again for joining me on another one of Nain's Shorts. And before we start, I'd like to remind you the 28th of this month, it's 28th of January. It is a Sunday starting at 10 a.m. in Brentwood, California at the Twin Dragon Academy. Our good friend Bear Carrillo will be hosting our other good friend Cijo Johnny Oliva for a 4-hour seminar. It's only $30 to get in. So please, folks, make the time, get out there. You have plenty of days ahead of you to plan that out, to get over there, especially if you're already close to the area. Cijo Oliva is here in the Bay Area, in the peninsula around us, so he will be traveling over there for that particular class. So all those that can make it, please do so. He's a wonderful man, has just so much information to give and so much to share, and he's a great teacher. He's really engaging, but he's also very stern. He loves to laugh, but he makes sure that everyone is doing their work as is expected from a class. So very great time. I do expect to see you there, and if I don't, shame on you. But enough about that. Cijo, shout out to you. Love you, man. I'll see you soon. So training, we're back to it. It never really stops once you get to a certain point, because even just thinking about stuff kind of gets new ideas going and different concepts working in your mind. And earlier today, I was working, and for those of you who know, I drive a bus. And for whatever reason, I had a few minutes to kill, and I just started doing some of my movements. I did it in an enclosed space in the bus aisle, so very limited space, and I was doing whatever I could in that movement as I was fighting somebody in front of me. Then I kind of paused that, and then I started doing my piñón outside. Then I sat down and I started remembering that I just watched John Wick again, and I imagined killing somebody with a pencil, like the movie. And it got me thinking, this motion of stabbing was like, oh, holy crap, it's the same motion as our inside block in Kaju. And then I started going through all the blocks, and it's like upward block, inward block, outward block. Oh wait, what if you turn? Okay, so now I'm doing the block like this, and our downward block. And you do it with either hand, and you can just move around. And we train them, we train both. And we know the basic idea, because it is called a block, it's meant to keep a punch from hitting you. Now that's the idea behind it. As you progress, as the belts get higher, you start using it more as a strike. Now it's a strike, so that turn becomes very important, so that you impact with your forearm. You use that to stop something versus just waiting and taking the brunt of it, because that hurts a hell of a lot more than putting your own force behind it. Same thing down. So you're learning the mechanics, and then you start learning the application of these things. And I started thinking, okay, I associated this pencil stab with an inside block. So I was like, okay, what if I put a knife in it? So I grabbed the knife. Well, in my head. I was going through this in my head. So I grab a knife and I do the motion. Okay, this way doesn't really do much. It's still just the forearm, or if you could say you're hitting with the puño or the butt of whatever you're holding in your hand. So it doesn't make a lot of sense in that regard. I mean, it's still useful, but it's not much difference from that. A force multiplier, definitely. Something heavy in your hand, you can definitely do that. But a knife is more effective when it either punctures or cuts. So then, pakao grip, the ice pick grip. So then I started wondering, okay, well, there's that motion, there's that inside block. If I lead with the tip, okay, so that's a stab. All right, now what about upward block? So, oh, I can stab up, but that's a really tall person I'm stabbing. So how would that be modified? I'm not hitting him up here, the throat would be here. So oh, there it is. So from this position, I now can do the same motion and it gets a stab. And you start thinking about, okay, here, oh, you're stabbing down. So it's that turn for that downward block and the outside block. If you do it this way without turning the wrist, oh, that's a cut. I did a cut with that one. But what if I turn it? Oh, there's a stab. Now, that one feels very awkward. So it took me a while to really kind of come up with a scenario where that stab would work. And the one thing that came up to mind is parrying to the outside, coming up, and going straight there. So I was like, okay, that's a place where I can use it. The upward block, oh, straight to the throat. Parry the hand, and it's right there. And I've actually even done drills with the pakal grip and a karambit where we were rolling, doing that, and then switching, because now there's this. So as I roll, this gets caught, I grab the arm that stopped, and then this turns into that step. So now I'm using the mechanics there. Of course, footwork has to then play a part in it, because now you're that much closer because it's a blade. And in reference to this downward, same idea. As you're moving to the outside, it could be a stab down to the thigh, making sure that they can't move. It can come down here. It can just grab the back of the leg just to swoop. So now it's non-lethal. And the same motion now, if you don't want to stab, oh, you can extend it. So now it's a hook, and you're using that. Again, all things that you have trained in one point or another, in one way or another, but the way that it came about was this idea of this inward block, and then exploring the outward and the upward and the downward block. And how do we combine these ideas from different arts and give it more depth, more meaning, and more options when you start changing certain details, the parameters? I thought of stabbing somebody with a pencil because of a movie. And then I moved on to a knife because I love knives. So I started working with that idea, and all this came about. Nothing that's new. I'm not learning something that has never been done before, but I'm exploring my own ideas in reference to what I am now capable of doing. I'm creating my own concepts of where can I use these same movements and how do I use them. Because if we're talking about striking, well, it's an attack. You're attacking. So what other forms of attack are there? What other things can you put in your hand? Can you take away? What other ideas can you add to that? And then they can combine and they can be creating into something that you feel comfortable doing. I'm sure we've all done it to one extent or another, but how deeply have we gone in the process of really simplifying our movements? Just enough, and then changing it, whether dramatically or just one small bit. Because now I put the knife down and I pick up a stick. It's a lot longer weapon now. Now I have more range. But then what is the movement? Okay, here. Oh, there's an inward block. That's a watik. Outward block. Oh, that's the inner watik. Up. Oh, I can watik this way. But then I realized, okay, well, that one, yeah, it could probably bother somebody, but the one that would be stronger would be the drop. So now I'm not just exploring going up, but also going down, which again, people have done before, but now I'm exploring the mechanics that I've learned through those exercises, through those drills, and giving them purpose. Because I go back to the knife now. Oh, what's that? Like I said earlier, I can hit with the forearm so I don't have to then stab the neck. But what do? They're still attacking me, they're still fighting. Well, I do the downward motion and I get into the scapula. Now I have control. It's non-lethal, but I still have control of everything else, and I'm pretty sure that person is going to be in a hell of a lot of pain, because now I'm taking it to its logical conclusion. How would you use these things in application? How would you use them in a fight? How would you then incorporate them? We've done the empty hand stuff, so we know that. Now you have a knife, now you have a stick. How then do these movements become what you need them to be in that moment? I can come here, I will teak, go to the neck. Then I do a second strike to soften them up. Now I know they're not standing very tall, and I can just bring them down to the ground, and then that's the end of the fight. Now I'm using these movements and exploring what I can do to end the fight. Our light went out. for some reason. Technical difficulties. But the training continues. These are just some of the things that popped into my head as I was sitting around. So there you go. That's another idea in itself. You may not have hours to train. You may not have that availability all the time. But do you have 2, 3, 5 minutes? Get inspired by something silly, by whether or not you watched something that made you think of something else. And where do those ideas come from? Where do those ideas go? How can you incorporate that inspiration to explore the things that you know, the things that you understand already, the things that you train, and then change the parameters. Change, add a weapon, take away a weapon. Do it with your left hand. So now it's a different dynamic. Now you really have to explore, okay, how does it work on this side? And then add all the things that you've learned for application, those concepts and ideas. What are you hitting with? Why would you hit them there? Are you changing targets? What movement would then satisfy that change so you can get something effective? How do you go about creating stuff? How do you go about combining ideas? Because this isn't the only way. This is just something that I was inspired at spur of the moment. Something clicked in my head and here we are. It became an episode of Nain Short. Because I wanted to share this with you. I would have preferred a live person, but my live dummy is injured, so we can't use him on camera. He's right there, so I had to say something about him. But folks, please share your ideas, share your concepts, and if this helps you, please use it. Explore. Take a movement that you know very well and simplify it to its rawest form. And then see what it inspires you, what ideas are then born in your own mind, what things do you have to now consider because of these changes, and is it useful, is it not? It may not always work for you, it may not be something that you want to do or even feel comfortable doing, but it got you thinking. It got you exploring different avenues, different ways to do the same thing. Because ultimately, we have 2 arms and 2 legs. There's a finite amount of things that we can do with them. But I do honestly believe that we can do that our way. And this is how I chose to then approach that concept. How does Nain come up with whatever he comes up with? Would I teach it this way? Maybe. I might come across a student who has trouble understanding the idea of the inward block or the upward block and how it becomes a strike. So maybe we do the same motion with the stick to then force the mechanics, or with a knife to really then emphasize the tightness in which you have to do the mechanics to make them effective. It may not be to teach them how to strike this way, but simply to understand the movement just a little deeper. So then they can translate it into what they needed to become later on as a teaching tool, and not even as a technique or even an idea for striking. Just movement. But again, just an idea. Thank you very much for joining me on another one of Nain's Shorts. Remember the 28th, Cesar Johnny Oliva in Brentwood, Twin Tiger Academy. And we hope to see you there, but otherwise, I'll see you on the next one. 3, 2, 1, cut!